I'm a reader. I'm a big reader. Not as big as some people who read a book a day, but I read like a book every 10 days, and they're meaty books. You know, I would definitely say I'm above average in my reading speed and quantity. But I often get the question, Ricky, how do you read so often? Truth is, it's not that I read fast. Like, I'm not special at all. Honestly, I'm probably below average in actual speed. I'm just practiced. I think a lot of people don't give themselves enough credit. They think they're like mentally unfit to read. Like when they read and they can't get into the book, it's because they were born a certain way. And that's certainly the case with some people, you know. But a lot of the people I speak to just haven't read enough. More often than not, it's because they haven't actually sat down and read a book in like a decade, right? They think they can just pop a squat and throw down 100 pages. They think they can read like they did when they were a kid. But it's been a while. That reading switch in their brains hasn't been pulled yet, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist at all, right? People give up because they think they're not equipped to read, but it's just, you know, they haven't, that path is not as treaded and well trimmed as it once was. It's not as easy to traverse as it was when people used to walk on it all the time. I don't fucking know. This leads me into tip number 1. Start small. You won't be able to rush into reading 100 pages, in one sitting. Shit, you probably won't even read 50 pages in one day if you haven't read since you were a kid. It's not about reading a certain amount a day. It's about reading like at fucking all. People get so caught up in this like competition with themselves to read as much as they can and to read enough to satisfy their ego or whatever. They just put so much pressure on themselves, and then they don't even glance at a page because they're so worried they won't make enough progress that they don't even want to try. They're like, I only have an hour. There's no way I'll be able to read as much as I want, so I'm just not going to read it all. It's like, so what if you don't have time to finish a chapter? Just read a couple pages, because you may never have time, and then you'll just never read. You want to make sure your heart's still in the story, right? You don't want to take week-long breaks. You want to read as often as possible, even if it's a little bit. Which brings me to tip number 2, remain consistent. This links back to tip number 1 in that you have to read as much as you think you realistically can stick to, right? Like if you make a schedule for yourself and you make it 50 pages a day and you haven't read a single page a day in, you know, forever, that's just not going to happen. You have to be self-aware and just think about, okay, how much do I actually want to read right now? Because just start with how much you want to read and you'll eventually get into the groove of it and read more at some point, but you're not going to start at 100. Even just a chapter a day. You sit down for a half hour and read a chapter or 10 pages. A very, you know, just a number that you stick to, as long as you do it every day so it stays in your head. What I normally do to make like a consistent schedule is select a specific date that I want to have the book finished by and then divide the total page count by how many days I have left. This keeps me honest and makes sure that I'm constantly driving towards this goal. Other than just wanting to see how the story ends, I have this date that I want to be done by. And sometimes I won't make it, and that's okay, but as long as I'm honest and, like, you can't let it domino effect. You can't be like, I missed this day, so what's even the point of reading today? Anyway, tip number 3. Start a book club. This is kind of like when you diet or work out with a partner. By teaming up with someone that has the same plan or schedule or whatever as you can keep each other on target. You can check in with each other. It's not really a competition, but you're with somebody else. They're going through the same struggle / experience, so you know they can do it, so you can do it. Or you know they can't do it, so you rein it back in. I've got a book club with a couple mates. We set a date that we're all going to finish the book, usually within, a couple weeks of starting it at most. And we can push that date if like need be, but that's kind of rare because we're all so excited to chat about it. On that, having a book club can make the actual act of reading itself more engaging because you get to these cool scenes or even stuff you just don't like, and you'll be thinking about what your group mates will think, right? You'll be looking forward to bouncing your thoughts off them and engaging in a discussion. It's a different experience than when you finish and you're like, yeah, I like that book. And you're just it's kind of an individual experience. And that's fine too, but it's more engaging this way, in my opinion. And obviously not everyone has a group of friends or even a friend that wants to read the same thing they're reading or wants to read it all. But you can always go online and find some fellow readers to book club with just in texting online, or just do what I did and start a booktube channel to annoyingly berate people with my stupid opinions, or just tweet about it. Be like, I like this book for this reason, # this book, and other people will see it. And there are plenty of ways to interact with people I find that having criticisms about stuff really helps me engage, helps me like think about it more critically when I know that I'm going to be expressing that opinion at some point. Tip number 5, don't be too afraid to move away from novels you're not interested in. If you don't read often, it may be because you haven't found your genre yet, right? You may be reading shit you think you should like, so you just keep pushing ahead while you're really not having that much fun until you just drop it totally. You're just like, whatever, like, it's something wrong with me. I just don't like reading. Well, it really may be that you don't like the material. If you move on, you might find a genre like sci-fi, fantasy, romance, whatever, that really grabs you. Like you could find themes within those genres that you really enjoy, and that can branch out into other genres that have matching themes. Or you can find an author you really enjoy, and you have this whole catalog by them that you can now go check out and feel safe with your purchase and your time that you probably will like the content. Plus, once you've got a few more books under your belt, you can always come back to the ones you left behind. You can come at them with a whole new perspective. You can compare it with the other stuff you've ingested. You know, maybe there's themes in that are like more subtly expressed in a book you gave up on that now you can, now that you've read a book in which they're expressed more expressly, you can go back and kind of see how those themes are subverted or whatever. You know, the more experience you gain, the better you're going to be at anything, obviously. Tip number 6, find a good time of the day. A lot of potential readers I know, especially the older folk, the boomers and whatnot, try to read before they go to bed. And they pass out. They fall asleep naturally. They've been working all day. They're old folk, old gentlewomen and gentlemen. So they fucking pass out and sleep, and that's perfectly natural. But and they give up. If a certain time doesn't work for you, you just gotta try another. You know, if you fall asleep at 4 p.m., then try reading on your lunch break. If you want to eat during your lunch break, try it when you first wake up with a nice cup of coffee. Or maybe after a workout when the adrenaline's pumping or you're more relaxed. Or during a workout or during a walk if you listen to audiobooks. Just don't give up when you realize you've slept through the last 6 chapters or whatever. Tip number 7, my final tip, and what is deceptively like the most important tip of all, because it's a trap that my generation especially falls so easily into. And I had the same problem when I started reading. See this? This phone? Take this shit and turn it off and fucking just throw it across the fucking room, because you don't need that. You're reading. Don't think about it. Don't scroll down TikTok or TwitTok or Insta fucking gram. No swiping up or down or left or right. Not unless you're reading an ebook while your device is on airplane mode and you're swiping to turn the fucking page, right? Phones are poison to reading. If that thing's near you and it's powered on or connected to the internet, you'll be thinking about it. Trust me, I'm reading a really compelling story and I'm thinking about what fucking 40-minute video essay I can watch on YouTube about speedrunning Mario Sunshine, right? And I don't need that. That can go away for now. I can go do that at any point. Reading is sacred to me, and it's also difficult. Even now, we don't live in a world where sitting down and looking at paper for hours on end is an easy feat. There's so much shit around you that's, you know, arguably equally as entertaining, that's just so easy to be absorbed into. If you want to read, turn it off and get it away. All right, that's all I got. Get out there and fucking read. Turn off that phone and go read a book. If you're just starting, keep it to something digestible, like, you know, Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, or comic books. Comic books can be just as good as a regular novel, but there's less words and, you know, more pictures. There's no shame in reading comic books. Comic books are amazing, but they're more digestible, objectively. For me, you start reading and you realize that you've opened up this treasure chest, because you're like, oh yeah, I can read a story now. But it's not just that. It's that, like, I have all of these stories that I had never, like, even thought of experiencing because I didn't like reading, but now I can just go fucking absorb them, or I can give up and then try something else. There's just so many options out there, and that's what I like about it. And more than often, they're pretty good, especially if you do some research. You're gonna find something you really like. Good luck.